Okay, so can you see my screen?
No. Yeah, it's visible now.
It's visible? Okay. Till then, I'll start with my introduction. Myself, Harsh Abhichandani. I'm a second year student from the IIT, and on behalf of the ML Forum, I'm going to start with the NumPy library. Before starting, I would like to tell you that as we are using Jupyter Notebook, there are two things. When you call a library, and if you press the tab option, it gives you all the possibilities and everything that the library can do. And second, when you are writing a code inside your cell, and if you want to run it, you just need to tap shift and enter. I repeat, if you want to just run your cell commands, you need to tap shift and enter. Should I start now? I'll mute every one of you now, and I'll start with my session. Okay. So, what is NumPy? NumPy is a linear algebra library for Python. It is used in everything in the PyData ecosystem, and it is one of the major building blocks. NumPy is also very fast to use as it has direct binding to the C libraries. And okay, so everyone I feel has used C and C++ first, and you need to call libraries there. And C or C++, you always type hash include stdio.h, iostream.h, etc. So whenever you type that, similarly in Jupyter Notebook or Python, you need to call your library as import dash as dash. As I've called my library here, import numpy as np. So when you have called the library, then you can use numpy for all the functions that you are going to type afterwards. So before that, before the functions, you need to know how to create numpy arrays. Usually, numpy arrays are created from a Python list. Like you first make a list and then convert it into a numpy array.
Harsh, okay. People want you to zoom the screen.
Okay.
Hmm.
Is it fine now? So once we make a Python list, you can see here that I've made a Python list. Then in order to make a numpy array or convert it into a numpy array, you need to call the numpy library first, which we have defined as np, then use dot. And as I told you about the tab option, after I type AR and press tab, you can see all the possibilities that NumPy gives you. So for now, we need to select array and pass the list inside in order to convert it into a NumPy array. You can see a NumPy array consisting of the list elements 5, 10, 15 has been generated. Moving on to the next part. Okay, this was the one-dimensional array. You can also create multi-dimensional arrays using nested lists. Inside this big list, there are three smaller lists consisting of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So do the same thing. Use the np.array function and pass your list inside the round brackets, and then press shift enter to get your numpy array in a multi-dimensional. This is the usual method to create NumPy arrays, but NumPy as a library has many inbuilt functions too. So the first function that we are going to use is arrange. I think Purva has explained you very clearly that arrange how a range function works. If you say 0 to 10, it gives you everything up till the last element before it. That is, if you call 10, you will get 9. So if I want a NumPy array from 0 to 10, I will use np.arrange, and I'll give the starting point as 0 and the ending point as 11 in order to get the elements from 0 to 10. You can see a NumPy array using the built-in method arrange gives you an array from 0 to 10. Okay, now at times you need some NumPy arrays which consist of all zeros or ones as their elements. So for that too, NumPy has given a built-in function that is zeros. The spelling is ZEROS and not ZEROES. But in order to be safe, I will use the tab key and see and select from the possibilities. And as an argument inside it, I will just pass a number that resembles the number of zeros you want in your NumPy array. If I want a NumPy array consisting of 8 zeros, I'll pass 8 and press Shift Enter to give the NumPy array consisting of 8 zeros. Similarly, for 1, I'll pass np.ones and then pass, let's say, any number that you want, that is 12. So it will give you a NumPy array consisting of 12 elements as ones. Then if you want a multi-dimensional zero array, you can pass np.ones and then give the number of rows and columns inside these round brackets. If I want 5 by 4, that is 20 zeros as the elements, I'll pass, and you can see a 5 by 4 matrix will get generated consisting of ones. Similarly for zeros, just type zeros instead of ones and you will get a 5 by 4 matrix consisting of all zeros. Then another built-in method is using linspace. You can see here what linspace does is it returns evenly spaced numbers over a specified interval. What does this mean? So I will show you with the argument theory. P dot linspace. In order to check what arguments the function takes, Jupyter Notebook gives you a shortcut to get an info about it. You just need to press Shift and Tab together. When I press Shift and Tab together, it shows me that the first argument which I have to pass is start. That is the starting element. The second argument is stop, and the third argument is now. Okay, so now if I want 3 elements between 0 to 10, 0 to 10, I'll pass it like this. So 3 evenly spaced elements that or numbers that you get between 0 to 10 are inside this NumPy array 0, 5, and 10. Okay, it's not compulsory that you need to select elements or arguments so that you get a proper integer value. You can also obtain float values. I'll show you once, like 0. I want 0 to 10 again, and I want 23 elements inside my NumPy array. You can see there is an evenly spaced difference of 0.45 in between all the elements. See 0, then 0.4555, then 0.9090. Okay, so moving on to the next built-in method, it will be I. Everyone knows what is an identity matrix, right? Still, I would like to tell you what is it. If you want an identity matrix, the matrix should consist the principal diagonal elements as 1 and all the remaining elements as zeros. So in order to, if you want a 5 by 5 identity matrix, I will just pass, I'll use the I function and pass 5 as the argument because I want a 5 by 5 identity matrix, and you can see a 5 by 5 identity matrix as a numpy array gets generated. So at times when you are just trying things in NumPy and you don't want to do a lengthy and you don't want to create a lengthy NumPy array, NumPy gives you an option to get a random valued NumPy array. So inside this random, there are different types as in, okay, I'll explain linspace again. So linspace returns evenly spaced numbers over a specified interval. What does that mean? Is that I pass my starting element as the first argument, the ending element as the second element, and the number of values that I want inside that interval, that is 0 to 10, I'll pass it as the third argument. So if you see, if you partition the interval 0 to 10 into 3 evenly spaced parts, you can see that 0 to 5 has a difference of 5, that is an interval of 5, and again 5 to 10 as then another interval. Guys, don't worry, we are there to reply you with your doubts one-to-one also on the WhatsApp group. You can just ping us there. So now, hope you, Dhruv, you got to know about linspace. I'll move on to random. So if you want, if you use np.random.ran, if you use np.random.ran, you can get any random values between 0 to 1, inclusive of 1. You can see here I've mentioned 0 to 1 inclusive of 1. So if I want a random numpy array, I'll type np.random and the number of values I want inside my numpy array. If I want 6 values, I'll pass 6 inside as an argument and press shift enter. You can see random values. It doesn't care if it's in ascending order or descending order. No sorting is done here, but you can get any type of any random value between 0 to 1 and inclusive of 1. If you check again, it will give you different values if I pass the same command again. You can see first we got 0.843, 0.8759. Now we get 0.663, 0.479. It returns different values each and every time you pass it as a command. So again, you can get a multi-dimensional array using this. You can see here we get a 5 by 5 numpy array and all values are between 0 to 1 and inclusive of 1. Okay, hope you understood this built-in function. Rand n also works similarly. You can just read and you will come to know what is it and try it by yourself. Then we come to rand int. What is rand int? It works similarly as the rand function. Only thing is that when you want integers and not float values in your array, you will use rand int. So I'll show you. So I'll pass np dot random dot rand int. Okay, I'll pass np dot random. 1 second, it's giving an error. Yes, rand int and I'll pass my lower limit and upper limit. So what will this do? It will return me any random value between 1 to 50. Any value. See, it gives me 49 now. It will give me a different value another time. If you see, if I pass 1 and 50 again, you can see it gives me 28 now. Every time you pass random function, you'll get a different value. Now, if you want multiple number of elements inside your NumPy array, what you need to do? I'll type the command again. You can see this is low means the lower limit, high means the upper limit, and size. So when you pass the third argument, it will denote the number of elements you want inside your NumPy array. So if I want 10 elements inside my NumPy array in the limits 1 to 50, I'll pass 10 as the third argument, and you can see 10 random values get generated. Okay. Moving on to the next part. Okay, now we finished the built-in methods. Now we go to the NumPy arrays, attributes, and methods. So when we come to arrays and attributes, we've just defined two arrays here. I'll show it to you more clearly outside. This is our first array and this is our second array. You can see the first array we've used empty.arrange and we've denoted 25 as an argument. So we know range function will work to a one value less. So we get a NumPy array with elements from 0 to 24. Okay, and we have denoted a second NumPy array using random and rand int. It shows that it gives us 10 values between the interval 0 to 50 as integers. Now, if we are reshaping our array, suppose we can see that there are 25 elements in our ARR NumPy array. What you can do is just use the reshape command, array.g. I'll press tab. I can see reshape and resize are different. We just want reshape for now. Reshape and then just pass the number of rows and columns inside the matrix. So here I would like to tell you that there are 25 elements. So you have to pass your number of rows and columns such that the rows and columns product is equal to the number of elements. As here it's 25, I'll pass 5 by 5 and you can see my array gets reshaped into a 5 by 5 matrix. Or we can pass 25 comma 1 as 25 into 1 is also 25. You can see you will get an array like this in 25 is to 1. And if you can also pass 1 is to 25, you can see our array got reshaped each and every time we change the number of rows and columns. But if the product of the number of rows and columns is not equal to what we say the number of elements, suppose we pass 5 comma 4, we know that only 20 elements can be put into that. So when 5 by 4 is passed, it will give an error. You can see reshape error, cannot reshape array of size 25 into shape 5 by 4. So you should know that the product should be equal to the number of elements. Now moving on to the next part, the new attributes as in max, min, argmax, argmin. Max, as the name suggests, will return the maximum value inside the array. Min will return the minimum value inside your array. argmax, when you need the index position of the maximum value inside your array, you will pass argmax. And when you want the index value of the minimum position of your array, you will pass argmin. Okay, so I'll call my array first. Okay, now if I want, see, you can check 43 is our maximum element here. So you will just pass you will call the array first and just pass max. No need of arguments here. You just want to extract one value. So you can see 43 gets returned. Now you can see 43 is at index position 0. If you want to grab the index position of the maximum value, you can use argmax and give round brackets. You can see 0 is returned. Similarly, for grabbing the minimum value, you can use the min function. You can see 4 is the minimum value in the array, and it is positioned at the second index position. So now in order to grab the index of the least value inside the array, we'll pass argmin. You can see it returns 2. Okay, now if you want to check just the shape, you don't want to reshape, you just want to check the shape of the numpy array, you can just pass you'll call the array first. I'll show you. Here it should return the value as 25, 1, as 25 elements are present in a line. So I'll just call array dot shape, and you can see it returns 25, and this nothing denotes 1. It denotes its default value is 1. Okay, so I think I have finished with the first part of NumPy, that is NumPy arrays. There are certain examples here again. If you want to see, you can read them and get to know about it. Just try these examples. We are going to provide you with a exercise tomorrow. I'll conduct a session tomorrow again. Now moving on to NumPy indexing and selection. What is NumPy indexing and selection? Okay, I'll take a fresh notebook for you. I called my library first as import NumPy as NP. I defined an array using arrays from 0 to 11 that says my elements should be from 0 to 10. So we created a simple array, we showed our array, then we go to indexing and selection. It is the simplest way to pick one or some elements of an array, and it works very, very similar to Python lists. As Purva explained you earlier about lists, you need to use the same logic here too. So if I want to grab value at, suppose, index position 5, I'll just pass 5 in the box brackets after calling our array. You can see at the 5th position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is present and it returns the value 5. Okay, now we come, if you want values in a certain range, you need to use the colon operator. What this colon operator does is that the value to the left hand side of the colon denotes the start, as in from the index position you want your values, and this gives you a range. So if you enter 5 as it's shown here, it will consider up to the index position 4. So I will pass I'll pass, if I show you 2 and 6, you can see the starting will be the index value at number 2, and the right hand side of the colon works as the range operator and gives an index position valued up till 5. So now moving on to the next part, similarly here we've called 0 is to 5. 0 means we need to grab the value starting from the 0th position to the range 5, that is we want the values from index 0 to index 4. Coming on to broadcasting, NumPy arrays differ from a normal Python list because of their ability to broadcast. This is one specification that Python lists don't have, and you can use NumPy arrays too. So here you can just change the value of a given range by just doing it like this. I pass a range, I say 1 is to 7, and I want all those values from 1 to 6. 7 acts as the range operator. I'll tell you again. It works as a range operator, and I want all values to be, say, 25. I'll press shift enter, and now I'll call my array to show you. You can see all values having index from 1 to the range 7, that is here it will consider as 6, change to 25. Now when these values are changed to 25, rest array will reset. Here it's written that reset array. We'll see why I had to reset the array. We need to reset the array in order to get the original values again, because this broadcasting is a permanent function. It just doesn't change for that cell. It changes the values of the array elements forever. As you can see, I have called my array again here. First our array was from 0 to 10, but then it changed to these 25, 25, 25 in the range we had mentioned. So in order to grab that array, we can use the copy command. To get a copy, we need to be explicit. So if we copy our array, we can copy it using the copy function. 1 second. We can use, and we can define a new array, array new, and equal to dot copy, and I'll press shift enter, and I'll see what's in our add new, and you can see the same array gets copied. So okay, moving on to the next part, it is slicing. So when we need to grab values from 0 to the, let's say, a range value which we have given here, it's shown 6. We can see our array first is from 0 to 10. Array elements consisting of 0 to 10, if you call 0 is to 6, it needs to return the elements from the index value 0 to the index value 5. And it's shown here, it returns the value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now as we defined new values as 25, which we had done here, we can see all these values from index value 1 to 6 were changed to 25. You can just grab that slice using this. If we don't put any values on the left and right hand side of the colon, what does it denote? It denotes all the elements inside the array. We've changed all the values inside the array to 99, and now when we call the array, you can see our values from 0 to 5 index have changed to 99, and from the 6th index to the rest gets same. I already explained you the copy function. Now we come to indexing. So the general format of indexing is row or column inside two separate box brackets and row comma column inside one bracket. Both act in the same way, but I will recommend you to use I'll recommend you to use comma notation for clarity. So I've defined an array for you. I'll just do this in more clear way. I'll just read my array. You can see our array consists of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Now, if you want to just grab a row, suppose, okay, I would like to mention first that even the number of rows and columns work in the index notations. So if I want to grab this third row, I will have to pass this index value as 2. So if I want to grab that row, I'll just pass the array name first, and in box bracket, I'll just mention 2. You can see the third row will get printed 35, 40, 45. We, we get 35, 40, 45 as a result. Now, again, if you want a specific value or individual element of our array, and if it's in multi-dimension, you can just use the comma notation or the two box brackets notation. So if I call 1 and 2, you can see 30 is given as the output, and we can use the comma notation as I suggested before. It returns you the same. If you want, suppose a small block of your array, you can even do that using the range function. You can see here 2 and 1, range 2 and 1 till the rest. You can see it will give you 10, 20, 10, 15, 25 and 30. I'll explain you this. So if I want 10, 15, 25 and 20 here, what does this mean? See, you can see our array, like we use the ranged operation, right? So up till the left hand side is consisted is the consists of the rows, and the right hand side of the comma consists of the columns. Here range 2 is mentioned. So range 2 means up till the first index position. So we can see the rows, this row, the 0th index row and the first index row will get returned. But we've also mentioned the value 1 for the columns as the index value. So when you press enter, you can see 10, 25, 15 and 30 will get returned. You can try using these things using your own defined arrays. It's fun to use NumPy. Moving on, again, if you want to grab the last row, I did that already. Using this, you will get the last row as the result, 35, 40, 45. Then again, this does the same thing. If you don't want to mention, sorry, if you don't want to mention anything afterwards, it's okay. It does the same thing. Don't need to mention the colon. Now, indexing can be a bit confusing, especially when you start to add in step size. So you can just refer Google. We don't need it right now for the basics. Now we come to conditional selection. What is conditional selection? So conditional selection is that we will just give conditions in order to grab certain values that satisfy our condition. So here we have defined our array, and I use the same array so that when you view these recordings later, it will be easier for you to understand. I'll just print my array to see it. The values are from 1 to 10. Now we can give certain conditions and it will return Boolean values. Boolean values as in true or false are Boolean values. So if I give the condition that all array elements should be greater than 4. So all values which are less than 4 will be false, and all values that will be greater than 4 will be true. You can see 4 is not less than, or 4 is equal to 4, it's not greater than 4, so it's false. 3, 2, 1 are all false, and rest all are true. I'll show you more. Now you can see there are two methods in order to get the true valued array. First, you can use you can define the condition as a separate variable. Let's say array greater than 4. Then just call it. You can see it gets stored in that. And then if you want to get or extract the values which are true, that is satisfy the condition as a separate array, you can define it as new equal to add of the boolean array which we selected. Oops, sorry. We have to pass box brackets here. It's my fault. Okay. You can see grab all the true values, and you can save it as another variable to create a new numpy array in order to move forward. Now there are we can directly just put the conditions inside the box brackets. You don't need to type the condition first and then do it 2-3 steps. You can do the same thing in one step. You can just give the condition inside box brackets and it will return you the array which you want. And that array will consist only the values which are true to the condition that we have provided. Here we have provided greater than 2, so values from 3 to 10 should be returned, and 3 to 10 values are printed. Or you can define the variable x outside as 2 and just pass the condition with respect to x, and you will get the same. Now we have come to slicing again. Slicing, we are just given examples here. I've explained you slicing first. You can read it. We have uploaded all these files on the drive. You can just read them. There are certain examples for you. Okay, I'm done with today's session. Thank you. So what I would like to tell you is just read these two Jupyter notebooks for tomorrow's session. I'm going to continue with array operations like addition, subtraction, etc. And I will also give you that a NumPy exercise to solve. I'll explain you the solutions. We've prepared a NumPy exercise for you guys, and I'll also explain you the solutions after that, and we'll also give you the solutions later on. Next week we have also planned something, so please be present, and we'll share you the details of tomorrow's lectures and timings, the links and everything as soon as possible. Please check your emails. Thank you for your time.